Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ Hero. Welcome to our program on tonight's headlines.
The most powerful typhoon to hit the Philippines this year destroyed tens of thousands of homes and killed at least 16 people as communications to the worst-hit areas remained cut off.
The U.S. presidential campaign enters its final day with a last-minute scramble for votes by Donald Trump and Joe Biden, drawing to a close an extraordinary race that has put a pandemic-stricken country on edge.
And the aid to humanity launched around the world. The most powerful typhoon to hit the Philippines this year destroyed tens of thousands of homes and killed at least 16 people as communications to the worst-hit areas remained cut off. Catanduanes Island and nearby Albay province on the most populous island of Luzon bore the brunt of Typhoon Goni, which was packing maximum sustained winds of 225 kilometers or 140 miles per hour when it slammed into the east coast on Sunday. Take a look.
Nahirap na kasi, wala naman akong kwan doon. Kapag-gapang ako doon, malakas ang hangin niya.
Pag-gapang lang siya sa bato, kasi hindi siya makalakad eh.
Pero kung makalakad ako, hindi ako lilikas.
Tatakot. Dahil po? Kasi yung bahay po ng mama ko, mababagsak na po.
Ngayon po mami.
Kasi nung nakaraan na milenyo na, nagiba talaga ang bahay namin. Lahat ng kapitbahay ko nawala ng bahay. Kaya natatakot. Kaya habang maaga pa nandito na kami sa evacuation center.
Ferocious winds and torrential rain toppled power lines, triggered flooding and sparked landslides that engulfed houses as Goni swept across the southern part of Luzon. It lost intensity as it skirted the sprawling capital of Manila and then headed out to the South China Sea. Philippine Red Cross Chief Richard Gordon in a statement said, "We are horrified by the devastation caused by this typhoon in many areas, including Catanduanes and Albay." He also said up to 90% of homes have been badly damaged or destroyed in some areas. Now, this typhoon has smashed into people's lives and livelihoods on top of relentless physical, emotional, and economic toll of the COVID-19. He added, around 400,000 people fled their homes ahead of the typhoon, and most of them remain in evacuation centers as authorities scramble to restore power and telecommunication services in the hardest-hit areas. 10 deaths were recorded in Albay province, but the provincial disaster chief, Cedric Daep, said without preemptive evacuations, thousands would have died. The mayor of Ginobatan, where the villages are located, told local media that around 147 homes had been swamped and some were now unlivable. Goni was ranked as a super typhoon when it made landfall on Catanduanes, where at least 6 people died, and authorities estimate most houses and infrastructure were damaged or destroyed.
The national government, alongside telecommunication companies, have ramped up efforts to immediately restore telco lines and power in Catanduanes after cellular signals and telephone lines were cut following Super Typhoon Rolly's onslaught. Catanduanes Governor Joseph Cua requested the national government to help the province in restoring destroyed telco services to allow the residents to communicate with their families outside the typhoon-hit areas. Watch this.
Sending people to Catanduanes is really to conduct immediate assessment of the damage and needs and identify needs, priority needs, which the LGUs cannot provide. And alam ni Mr. Jesser Adornado, being the second in command of the OCD region office in Bicol region, and kaya siya ang pinadala dyan ni Director Yukot. So may kasama rin siyang mga iba pang mga personnel from other regional offices, so alam din nila ang kanilang gagawin. Basically, it is to augment the resources and response operations of the local government unit of Catanduanes. Now, I would like to inform the GOB and Mr. Jefferson Adonado that the DSWD will be dispatching or ferrying family food packs tomorrow for Bicol, but there will be a specific flight for Catanduanes using C-130. So may dala-dala yan ng mga family food packs ng DSWD, and since potable drinking water is one of the needs, we will try to source drinking water in bottled drinking water to be accommodated in the C-130 flight tomorrow. So yun, kailangan ma-identify natin yung iba pang needs, critical needs na kailangan dyan sa ating disaster response sa Catanduanes, which cannot be provided by the local. Governor, kasama natin sa pagpaplano yung nung nagpaplano pa lang tayo dito sa pagdating ni Super Typhoon Goni, kasama natin sa pagpaplano in our pre-disaster risk assessment meetings yung mga representatives ng Telco, Globe, and Smart, and in my engagement with them earlier this morning, they are already doing something about the restoration, immediate restoration of telco services in Catanduanes. Ang nauna nila na-restore ay yung dito sa may main town. So,
meanwhile, Governor Kua said that they utilized safely located public schools in the province as evacuation centers to move residents living in coastal towns and low-lying areas prone to storm surge, landslides, and flooding. He said 80% of electric posts, transformers, and other electric facilities manned by local cooperatives have been destroyed due to the typhoon. Governor Kua said an estimated 15,000 families were affected by storm surges. Pag-asa raised typhoon signal number 5 in the Bicol provinces of Catanduanes, Camarines, and Albay. Signal number 4 was hoisted in Metro Manila and a wide area of southern Luzon and the Visayas. The strongest typhoon of the year first made landfall on Catanduanes Island at 4:50 in the morning of Sunday, with maximum sustained wind speeds of 225 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 310 kilometers per hour. It ripped off roofs, toppled trees, and triggered flash floods. Hours later, it hit land again in Albay at 12 noon. It made its third landfall in Quezon. Rolly was downgraded from a super typhoon as it swept across Luzon and towards Metro Manila. Although weakened, Pag-asa said it was still powerful enough to inflict catastrophic damage in Metro Manila and neighboring provinces.
Meanwhile, Pag-asa said signal number 1 may be raised over some areas in Cagayan Valley by Wednesday due to the possible landfall of Tropical Storm Goni with international name Atsani this week. Pag-asa said Goni may make landfall over Cagayan Valley between Thursday evening and Friday, but it's still uncertain as to the cyclone's final track due to its erratic movement. It also said it could either move towards Batanes or northern tip of Cagayan. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Rolly, or international name Goni, was estimated at 225 kilometers west of Iba, Zambales, with maximum sustained winds of 65 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 80 kilometers per hour around 3 p.m. Should it maintain its north-northwest track at 15 kilometers per hour, Rolly will be outside the Philippine area of responsibility by Tuesday morning. The trough of Goni, meanwhile, may also bring scattered rain showers over Cagayan Valley, Apayao, Kalinga, and Ilocos Norte. Metro Manila and the rest of the country will be partly cloudy to cloudy with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. All tropical cyclone wind signals are raised in the country were already lifted.
At least 45 passengers were stranded at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport and 83 flights were canceled during the airport's 24-hour closure due to Typhoon Goni on November 1st, the Manila International Airport Authority reported. MIA Media Affairs Division Head Jess Martinez said 31 of the stranded passengers were domestic passengers and 14 were passengers of international flights. The MIA reported that the country's main gateway did not sustain any damage during the typhoon. Local carriers, for their part, have informed their passengers regarding flight cancellations and airport closures, which the MIA announced on Saturday night. In an interview with PNA, AirAsia Philippines spokesperson Steve Dailisan said the carrier has rescheduled some of its flights ahead of the threat of Typhoon Goni in Metro Manila. Dailisan also said rebooking the affected passengers was the only thing AirAsia can do for them, since the passengers' lack of requirements was not the carrier's fault. Philippine Airlines spokesperson Shelo Villaluna, on the other hand, said replacement flights were mounted for several of the canceled flights. She also noted that affected passengers have the option to rebook, reroute, or refund their tickets within 30 days from their original flight schedule. Based on the Air Passenger Bill of Rights, flight cancellations due to a severe weather condition are not the airline's fault. Thus, the airlines are not obliged to provide passengers with hotel accommodations. Civil Aeronautics Board Chief Legal Officer Wirlu Samodio said that as of Monday, the CAB have not received complaints due to canceled flights, while NAIA was closed for 24 hours.
Rescue workers were searching 8 wrecked buildings amid dwindling hope for survivors as the death toll from a powerful earthquake which hit western Turkey rose to 69. Now, the 7-magnitude quake also injured 940 people, according to the Turkish Emergency Authority, AFAD, after it struck on Friday afternoon near the west coast town of Seferihisar in Izmir province. The authority said more than 200 people were in hospital. The worst affected Turkish town was Bayrakli, where anxious families and thick blankets spent a second night in tents preparing for a third. Nearly 6,000 rescuers have been working day and night since Friday, mechanical diggers helping them remove blocks of concrete. Periodically, the rescue work has been halted, and everyone kept silent to listen for signs of survivors trapped in the rubble. Bayrakli Mayor Serdar Sandal of the main opposition party said over 100 people were rescued from collapsed buildings. He also vowed the municipality would work tirelessly to support citizens and meet their needs.
In a related news, rescuers pulled 2 children from the rubble in a town in western Turkey on Monday, nearly 3 days after a powerful earthquake hit the Aegean, killing 85 people. The Turkish Emergency Authority AFAD said 3-year-old Elif Perinsek was rescued 65 hours after the 7-magnitude quake struck Turkey and Greece on Friday. Local media showed a video of a little girl wrapped up in a foil blanket, quickly taken to safety in the coastal town of Bayrakli, the hardest hit by the disaster, as rescue workers broke into applause. Elif, of course, was the 106th person pulled out alive from collapsed buildings in Bayrakli, which included her mother and 3 siblings the day before. But her rescued brother later died. AFAD also reported the rescue of 14-year-old Idil Sirin in Bayrakli 58 hours after the quake hit. But the family's joy was brief as the lifeless body of Idil's sister, Ipek, was found.
U.S. President Donald Trump hints at firing America's top virus doctor Anthony Fauci after the election, saying he appreciates the advice after a crowd of supporters chanted, "Fire Fauci," at his Florida rally. Mr. Trump spoke well past midnight at the Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport in Florida at his fifth and final rally of the day.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election. I appreciate the advice. They don't get crowds like this. Nobody gets crowds like this. You know what gets crowds like this? Making America great again. That's what gets crowds like this. It's the only thing that's going to get a crowd. And if I don't sound like a typical Washington politician, it's because I'm not a politician. Probably why we won.
Dr. Anthony Fauci has issued an urgent plea for a change in U.S. policy on the coronavirus, drawing a sharp rebuke from the Trump administration in the final days of a hard-fought election campaign. Fauci, in an interview in the Washington Post on Sunday, warned that the United States is headed for a whole lot of hurt unless it makes an abrupt change in health practices. With many Americans ignoring safe practices and many hospitals already under severe strain as cold weather and the flu season arrive, you could not possibly be positioned more poorly, Fauci said, and it's not a good situation. The virus has claimed more than 230,000 lives in the U.S., which last week suffered record high numbers of cases, hitting 98,000 on Friday.
Democratic presidential nominee and former Vice President Joe Biden denounces the alleged harassment of one of his campaign buses by Donald Trump supporters on a Texas highway in an incident the FBI confirmed it is investigating while campaigning in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Watch this.
And it was on interstate highway in Texas, and a bunch of Trump trucks, pickup trucks with Trump flags, tried to run it off the road. They're stopping in front of it, and the president saw it, took the video that someone had taken, and tweeted it back out and said, "I love Texas. I love Texas."
Video posted on Twitter appears to show multiple trucks with the Trump flag surrounding and slowing the Biden-Harris bus. The president himself tweeted a video of the incident late Saturday saying, "I love Texas." Democratic officials said the bus carrying state congressional candidate Wendy Davis stopped its journey and canceled 2 planned events and a news conference, citing safety concerns. The FBI San Antonio office told AFP on Sunday they were investigating the Texas incident but declined to give further comment. An SUV belonging to the Democratic caravan was reportedly sideswiped. No injuries were reported, and it wasn't clear whether anyone involved was armed. During a rally in Michigan, Trump explicitly embraced the action, saying that the Texas protesters were trying to protect the Biden bus. And he later slammed the investigation on Twitter, insisting these patriots did nothing wrong. He also said instead the FBI justice should be investigating the terrorists, anarchists, and agitators of Antifa who run around burning down our Democratic-run cities and hurting our people.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Boris Johnson ordered England back into a national lockdown after the United Kingdom passed the milestone of 1 million coronavirus cases. A second wave of infections is also threatening to overwhelm the health service. Joining us live from the United Kingdom is Aribel Celestino. Hello, Aribel.
Hello, Alma, and yes, Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Saturday has announced a new 4-week coronavirus lockdown in England, which will join several European countries in imposing the measure for a second time. In a statement, he said, "Now is the time to take action because there's no alternative. From Thursday until the start of December, you must stay at home. You may only leave home for specific reasons, including for education, for work, let's say if you cannot work from home, for exercise and recreation outdoors with your household or on your own, with one person from another household, for medical reasons, appointments, and to escape injury or harm, to shop for food and essentials, and to provide care for vulnerable people or as a volunteer." In contrast to the 2 months-long UK-wide lockdown earlier this year, schools, colleges, and universities will remain open, but pubs and restaurants will shut unless serving takeaway food, while all leisures and entertainment venues and non-essential shops will close. The ramped-up response came as Britain surpassed 1 million cases after announcing nearly 22,000 new infections on Saturday. The government's scientific advisors have warned COVID-19's prevalence and resulting hospitalizations and deaths are rising faster than their most dire predictions. They cautioned that under the current trajectory, intensive care units and ventilator capacity could be overwhelmed by early December, while winter deaths could be double the current toll. Britain is already among the hardest hit countries in Europe, with total COVID-19 related deaths nearing 47,000 after another 326 fatalities were announced. Some European neighbours and the devolved governments in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have already reimposed partial lockdowns to try to cut their surging virus rates. Last month, the UK government's Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, or SAGE, recommended a 2-week national circuit breaker lockdown over the half-term school holidays this past week. But Johnson, who is responsible for health policy in England, only resisted the move, opting to persevere with a system of localized restrictions. Keir Starmer, the leader of the main opposition Labour Party, who last month backed the circuit breaker, said the delay meant the lockdown would now be longer and harder on people. The government was too slow in the first phase of the pandemic, and now it's been too slow again, he told the BBC. Starmer called on ministers to improve the faltering contact tracing system to ensure the shutdown ends early next month. SAGE member Jeremy Farrar said the government may need to consider closing schools amid evidence the virus is surging among secondary school students. He added ministers may be forced to extend the lockdown beyond 4 weeks. It would be much better to do that than remove these restrictions and then have to reimpose even more draconian restrictions around Christmas or into the new year, he told the BBC. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much. Aribel, can you tell me how are business groups reacting to the news of another lockdown?
Well, business groups have reacted wearily to the news of another lockdown. Johnson announced a 1-month extension of the government's financial support scheme to help firms pay furloughed employees. But the City of London Corporation's Catherine McGuinness said households and companies will need additional support to help them through a long and difficult winter. And Michael Kill, CEO of the Night Times Industries Association, which lobbies for the entertainment and hospitality sector, said it left these businesses facing financial Armageddon. He also said they are still being given limited communication, consultation, or time to respond on the plan around these decisions. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much, Aribel. Stay healthy and alert, and we look forward to more updates there in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Alma. I'm Arabelle Celestino, and we live in interesting times.
The Los Angeles City Fire Department Foundation received some monetary assistance from the Iglesia ni Cristo. From our EBC Los Angeles Bureau, here's Allen Basalyaje. Allen.
So great.
For the state of California, this year's fire season has been the worst in history. And one church, the Iglesia ni Cristo, in collaboration with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, is making kindness contagious with their Aid to Humanity event, appreciating firefighters throughout Los Angeles County.
The Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo, together with its social arm, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, through its Aid to Humanity project, would like to recognize and appreciate the good works and the sacrifices that our firefighters are doing for our community.
What you contribute and what you have decided to do today contributes to that, and you're in partnership with us. We're so happy that you're here. We're so happy for it. It's part of the partnership and part of what exemplifies the best in the city of Los Angeles.
You know, California firefighters have been working very, very hard this year and last year. The only way that our foundation can support us, the firefighters in Los Angeles, is the community that does these donations. And we are so grateful for the generous donation that we just received from the Iglesia in Cristo church. It's just it's heartwarming, and we just can't express our gratitude enough.
2020 has been the worst year, I think, for most everybody in the public and in the world. In particular, with regards to California, we've seen over 4.3 million acres burned so far. It is the worst season on record. We are just so grateful for the support that's provided from Iglesia ni Cristo. It's amazing. This donation and contribution will help us to purchase this year structure gloves for the firefighters. So the money is going directly into the needs that are identified by the LAFD as to what they need. We couldn't do this without donations from Iglesia ni Cristo and all the other donors that support us.
Under the leadership of our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, we are being taught and even guided to do all that we can to do good to our fellow men. We cannot forget to appreciate these heroes of the community who do not mind risking their very own lives just so they can maintain the safety and order here in our community.
Auspiciously, the birthday of the Iglesia ni Cristo's executive minister coincided with the Aid to Humanity events taking place worldwide.
First of all, I want to say the happiest of birthdays to Brother Edmalo. What you are doing and what you have accomplished with the church is absolutely amazing, and we'd like to just say happy birthday and welcome to the Los Angeles Fire Department family.
Well, Brother Eduardo, happy birthday. Every year that goes by is another year to be thankful for, and we are so appreciative of your support as your church here that's been planted, or your organization has been able to support the Los Angeles Fire Department. And it's my understanding that you're doing this up and down the state of California. Your efforts are so appreciated. We thank you. Happy birthday.
And at stations throughout the county, appreciation from the Iglesia ni Cristo continued to be shown to firefighters. In Los Angeles, California, Alan Basalyaje, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thanks, Alan. Eagle News, we'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Welcome back. Prince William, second in line to the British throne, contracted coronavirus in April, but kept his diagnosis secret according to media reports. The Sun newspaper said the Duke of Cambridge, 38 years old, was diagnosed shortly after his father, heir to the throne, Prince Charles, announced he had caught the virus in late March. But he didn't make the diagnosis public because he didn't want to alarm the nation, the tabloid said. The BBC also reported the story quoting a palace source. William's Kensington Palace office would not confirm the reports when contacted by AFP, but also did not deny they were true.
In other news, the World Health Organization chief said late Sunday that he was self-quarantining after someone he had been in contact with tested positive for COVID-19, but stressed he has no symptoms. Tedros has been at the forefront of the United Nations Health Agency's efforts to battle the pandemic. The 55-year-old former Ethiopian Minister of Health and Foreign Affairs has for months reiterated that each person has a role to play in halting the spread of the virus. The WHO urges all individuals to be careful about hand washing, wearing masks and keeping a distance, while it calls on authorities at various levels to work to find, isolate, test and care for cases, then trace and quarantine their contacts. COVID-19 has claimed nearly 1.2 million lives and infected over 46 million people worldwide since emerging in China late last year.
And Israel began clinical trials of a novel coronavirus vaccine on Sunday, according to authorities, as the government loosens a second lockdown imposed to stem soaring infections. Early in the pandemic, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tasked the Israeli Institute for Biological Research, or IIBR, with developing a vaccine against the virus. 2 volunteers, one at Sheba and another at Hadassah Medical Center in Jerusalem, received the vaccine on Sunday. Israel will first test the vaccine on 80 people before extending it to 980 in the second phase, and then 25,000 in the final stage, slated for April or May. The Israeli trial is one of around 40 vaccine candidates being tested worldwide, according to the World Health Organization.
The canton of Geneva says it will go beyond Switzerland's national measures and close all bars, restaurants, and non-essential shops in a bid to rein in skyrocketing COVID-19 cases. The region's 500,000 inhabitants will thus find themselves in roughly the same semi-lockdown situation as in the spring, with the exception that schools will remain open.
And Spanish police arrested more than 30 people during clashes with protesters for a second consecutive night as demonstrators take to the streets to denounce new restrictions. The biggest disturbances were in Madrid, where scores of demonstrators chanting freedom torched rubbish bins and set up makeshift barricades on the city's main thoroughfare, the Gran Via.
In the U.S., Virginia officials say Iglesia Ni Cristo's drive-through flu shot and food distribution is a message of hope. Here's Serene Garcia for the report.
Free drive-through flu shots, groceries, and personal care products are being given away at the moment here at the Military Circle Mall in Norfolk, Virginia, where the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or the Church of Christ, launched an event called Aid to Humanity. The church seeks to assist those who may be going through tough times at the moment. Members of the Church of Christ worked hand in hand to prepare for this outreach effort as they aim to promote love and kindness within the community.
We have a drive-through grocery wherein we're able to have a contactless drive-through, being able to give the essential needs and even the groceries to the people who may be in need, most especially those that were affected by the pandemic. And here in Hampton Roads region, we're also even providing a flu vaccination, a free flu vaccination, drive-through as well, because we know that most especially during this time, the flu season, this is what so many people need.
Sure, so Norfolk has about 250,000 residents. We're the second largest city in the state. We have a great community, but we have a pretty significant concentration of poverty and people in need as well. We have 49% of the public housing for the entire region of 1.7 million. And so this pandemic has really hit people hard, both with their own health care issues and other folks who've lost their jobs and who don't have the ability to provide for their families in the way that they'd like.
My community where I live has been affected. We're limited to where we can go, being that things were shut down. We're very active, like myself, I'm always on the go. And with the pandemic, you don't know who has it, and you really don't want to be around a lot of people.
Well, a lot of people are suffering during the pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. The unemployment compensation is woefully inadequate. And so food distribution like this goes a long way into relieving suffering. So we want to thank the church for the contribution, particularly the free flu shots, which protect people from the flu in the middle of another virus pandemic.
I think this is a message of hope that we are going to get through these unusual and awful times, and that my hope is that we come out stronger as a community because we know that we have to help one another in times of need. And so I think it's just a beautiful message. And while it's tragic that we find ourselves in this pandemic, if we can take some silver linings out of it, it's community partnerships with the Church of Christ like this.
Though the world right now is experiencing challenges and many uncertainties due to the global pandemic, this was not a hindrance for the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ when it comes to helping those who are in need. In Norfolk, Virginia, Celine Garcia, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
And to mark INC Executive Minister Brother Eduardo Manalo's birthday, a worldwide Aid to Humanity was held to help the needy during these unprecedented and interesting times. Here's a report from our EBC correspondent in Melbourne, Dwight Baloloy. Hello, Dwight.
Members of the Iglesia ni Cristo or the Church of Christ from different parts of Australia such as Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, and Darwin participated in the INC Worldwide Lingap sa Mamamayan or Aid to Humanity to help those that were affected by the current global pandemic. Through the guidance of the District Supervising Minister of the Ecclesiastical District of Australia West, Brother Romeo E. Beltran, INC members were able to distribute food parcels and care packages to the recipients of the said event. Religious organizations and groups across Australia were delighted to the support and concern of INC members in their community. Because despite of what is currently happening in the world right now, INC members never failed to help out those that were affected by this pandemic. With the strong and dynamic leadership of INC's Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, its members' passion and dedication to give aid to those in need has extended not only here in Australia, but even reached the different parts of the world such as Africa and India. Reporting from Melbourne, Australia, this is Dwight Albert Baloloy, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Dwight. Eagle News. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
This portion is brought to you by Canreef Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more info, please contact Ami Kanke at 0915-263-7198 or 0998-900-3224.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Back to the news. Hundreds of people have gathered to stage an anti-France protest outside the French embassy in Jakarta. Muslims in the city, as well as in Pakistan and Lebanon, vented their fury at France and torched an effigy of President Emmanuel Macron over his recent remarks on Islam, with tens of thousands flooding the streets. France has been on edge since the beheading last month of a teacher in a Paris suburb for showing pupils the cartoons repeatedly published by satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo in a class on free speech. After 3 people were murdered in Nice Thursday in the latest in a long line of terror attacks in France, President Macron said that France will not give up on their values despite fury at the caricatures. Protests are being staged across the Muslim world. France's foreign ministry issued a safety advice to French citizens in Indonesia, Turkey, Bangladesh, Iraq, and Mauritania, advising them to exercise caution. They should stay away from any protests over the cartoons and avoid any public gatherings.
Meanwhile, Indonesian President Joko Widodo today condemned what he called terrorist attacks in France, but also warned that remarks by President Macron had insulted Islam and hurt the unity of Muslims everywhere. Take a look.
Dari MU. Indonesia juga mengecam keras pernyataan Presiden Prancis yang menghina agama Islam, yang telah melukai perasaan umat Islam di seluruh dunia, yang bisa memecah belah persatuan antar umat beragama di dunia. Di saat dunia memerlukan persatuan untuk menghadapi pandemi COVID-19. Dan kebebasan berekspresi yang mencederai kehormatan, kesucian, serta kesakralan nilai-nilai dan simbol agama sama sekali tidak bisa dibenarkan dan harus dihentikan. Mengaitkan agama dengan tindakan terorisme adalah sebuah kesalahan besar. Terorisme adalah terorisme. Teroris adalah teroris. Terorisme tidak ada hubungannya dengan agama apapun. Indonesia mengecam keras terjadinya kekerasan yang terjadi di Paris dan Nice yang telah memakan korban jiwa.
Hong Kong authorities announced a record seizure of over half a ton of methamphetamine on Monday, saying the coronavirus pandemic has led smugglers to riskier bulk shipments in place of traditional drug mules. The crystal meth, reportedly worth around 300 million Hong Kong dollars, was discovered last Thursday hidden in a shipping container with a declared cargo of cement bags. The shipment was headed from Vietnam to Australia, but suspicions were reportedly raised by its unusual route. The container originated in Mexico, went through South Korea, and then remained in Vietnam for 3 months before sailing on to Hong Kong. Australia is a major destination for meth, where it can sell for 5 times the street price in Hong Kong. The heartland of Asia's methamphetamine trade lies in the Golden Triangle at the intersection of Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, and southwestern China. Iconic Scottish actor Sean Connery who has died at the age of 90, suffered from dementia in his final years, his widow, Micheline Roquebrune, revealed on Sunday. Connery, famous for playing the original on-screen James Bond, passed away at his home in the Bahamas, prompting an outpouring of tributes. He died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by family members, his widow told the Mail on Sunday. She said, and I quote, "He had dementia and it took its toll on him. He got his final wish to slip away without any fuss." The actor, who was knighted in 2000, won numerous awards during his decades-spanning career, encompassing an array of big-screen hits, including an Oscar, 3 Golden Globes, and 2 BAFTA awards. But it was his smooth Scottish accent, accented portrayal of the suave License to Kill spy 007 that earned him lasting worldwide fame and adoration.
And we're still following the aid to humanity events around the world. Here's Kit Wong from our EBC Macau Bureau. Kit?
Amid pandemic, Church of Christ Iglesia Cristo continues to extend their help to the needy here in Macau.
Church of Christ Iglesia Cristo held aid to humanity in Chenmengam Theater to help overseas Filipino workers that are in need due to the pandemic. The Macau government has implemented new laws for foreigner workers, which started last October 5. All foreign workers who do not renew or continue their contracts with their employers or a company will need to leave Macau to process their new work visa, since they will not be able to process it on the status of a tourist in Macau. Foreign workers who were laid off and those who were not renewed their contracts by their employers or company should exit from Macau. Since March of this year, Macau implemented strict lockdown and restrictions on its border, causing many foreign workers and tourists to get stuck here without job and struggle to support their daily needs. Members of the Church of Christ constantly host aid to humanity through the instruction of the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manano, by giving out goodie bags, which contain essentials like rice, noodles, and canned foods. The said program was also attended by some locals and were also giving goodie bags. Amid pandemic, the Church of Christ Iglesia de Cristo continues to extend their help to the needy here in Macau. The program was attended and assisted by Consul General Ms. Lilibeth Diabera and the Chairman of People Alliance Association in Macau, Mr. Aoyuan Guangko, together with the Minister of Gospel in the Ecclesiastical District of Macau in handing out the goodie bags.
On behalf of the officers and staff of the Philippine Consulate General in Macau, I would like to thank the Ecclesiastical chapter of Macau for doing this gift giving to our kababayans in Macau who are stranded without work and who are really in need of assistance and love and care. I appreciate very much what you have been doing, especially since on the part of the government, we cannot do this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you po sa INC.
Ang distrito po ng Macau ay kaisa ng mga kapatid sa buong mundo
sa paggunita po sa kaarawan ng kapanganakan ng ating tagapamahalang pangkalahatan, ang kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo. Kaya kami pong lahat, mga ministro, kasama ng aming sambahayan at lahat ng mga may tungkulin at mga kapatid ay bumabati po ng maligayang kaarawan sa kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo. At bilang paggunita po ng aming pong distrito, ay nagsagawa po kami sa araw na ito ng Aid to Humanity o lingap sa mamamayan na kung saan ay tumanggap po ang mga kababayan natin na nagkaroon ng suliranin sa kanilang hanap buhay, maging ang mga Chinese nationals po ay pumunta rin sa dakong ito, mga non-Filipino, na tumanggap po sila ng lingap po mula sa Iglesia ni Cristo. Kaya nagpapasalamat po kami ng marami sa lahat po ng mga dumalo, lalo na po sa mga kapatid na nakipagkaisa sa gilusang ito. Muli po, kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo, happy birthday po. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thank you so much po and happy birthday po.
From Macau, reporting for Eagle News. This is Kate Wong. We live in interesting time.
Former U.S. President Barack Obama made a three-point shot inside a gym in Michigan as he campaigned for Joe Biden in the presidential race. Obama, the 44th president, shared the video on Twitter. Take a look.
That's what I do. That's what I do. Whoa. All met.
It's nice to see light moments like that during the campaign. Well, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm CJ Hero. Join us again tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.